everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Gorilla Whale, a Godzilla watch-along podcast. I am your kaiju consultant, Kevin Carpenter.
And I am a bug person, Kayla Knutson.
And today we are talking about the second movie in the Godzilla anime trilogy, Godzilla, City on the Edge of Battle. So if you listened to our previous episode, you should know we're not that excited to talk about this, but by golly, are we going to be talking about it anyway. I do think, especially near the end of the last episode, our analysis got very scattered because the movie itself is very scattered.
Yeah.
But just to kind of recap here real quick on our opinions of these movies, the characters are a bit flat. The world building asks a lot of questions and makes a lot of hypothetical assumptions and conversations, but doesn't also focus on a lot of the more interesting things that they could be doing. And the animation is a bit stiff. And it's like every time you see some in this movie that it's like, okay, you know, this might be cool. Doesn't really give it to you all the way. Also, we're going to reach out to the female audience, but we're not going to give interesting female characters.
They didn't really, I would not say that they reached out to the female audience so much as they wanted to reach out to the female audience, said that was their intention with this movie, and then didn't do anything that would actually appeal to women.
Yes, we have the Bishonen men, and we have one female who doesn't really have that much of a character. But now, with this movie, we have two new female characters. And their designs are cool.
Their designs are cool. They're not much in terms of character.
That is one thing we can say about these movies, is that a lot of the designs are cool. At the very least, the Godzilla design is cool.
Yeah.
The twins design is cool. The mech suit and tank designs are cool. The human character designs, not so much, and I think they could have done more with the aliens to give them more unique designs, because they really just look like humans.
Yeah.
Which, then again, you know, the Zillions looked like humans, but they had cool outfits. And then
also, that was live action. Yeah. Like, we are in an animation territory now, and, you know, there's this kind of misconception that with animation or comic books, it's like, whoa, you know, you don't have to worry about a special effects budget. You could do so much stuff. You do actually have to, like, there is still a quote unquote budget, you know, especially with animation movies. It still costs money to animate all of that stuff. And the more complicated it is, the more time and thus the more money it really requires, or at least the more time, money, labor, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the alien characters still look far too human, in my opinion. I don't think it would have been more difficult, really, to make them look more interesting, because the thing is that when you look at them at first glance, you kind of can't tell that they're not human. Well, like, it took me a minute to realize the exifs are supposed to be. They can make it clear. They can make it more exciting.
They have white hair and little hair loops, but
they have the ears are a little weird, I think, but you don't. That's something where it's like you might mistake that as a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
Or you don't see the ears that often because of the hair loops. And it's like, listen, with Spock in Star Trek, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because it's live action. They're a little bit more limited, you know. But yeah, they could have done a little bit more, I think.
The Belusaludo also look like humans, but they got like little spiny facial hair. They're bigger. They got darker skin. It's like they look like Ganondorf.
Yeah, but the issue too, I will say this, the issue with the presentation of the aliens in this is it's an anime. And anime tends to do stylistic choices on human characters that are not the way that humans look. Anime is already an extreme style of representing the humanoid figure. The eyes don't look like that, really, you know, but we go with it. So I think for that reason, for anime being such an extreme style, when you do an alien, you should really push the limits a bit more, even if they're supposed to be quote unquote humanoid, because we're already dealing with a heightened style of our own species being represented, like Naruto's whiskers, you know, which was an indication of him having the Nine-Tailed Fox, but it was still like, it didn't make him an alien,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think the creative choice of having all of the characters wearing the same spacesuits.
Yeah,
which,
really makes it a little harder.
Which I will say there is detail put into the spacesuits of like they've been wearing these for a while. They're all scuffed. Like it doesn't look as weirdly smooth as I've seen from some other 3D CG movies.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when everyone's wearing the same outfit, there's a homogeneity between the characters.
You really have to make their features that much more distinctive because we can't rely on their clothes to tell them apart.
And when also they don't have a lot of character traits between them, it becomes hard to tell them apart. There's a lot of like smaller human characters that float around, but I don't mention them because they don't matter.
Yeah, they don't matter. They're just there to fill out the cast.
Yeah.
And they're not distinct. Like, they're just not distinctive.
Well, speaking of the characters, let's recap our cast here. We're not really going to be going into the historical context because it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing as the last movie.
It's the same, crew, same circumstances. But the characters here, we have our protagonist, Captain Haruo Sakaki, now Commander Haruo Sakaki. He is the commanding representative of the Kill Godzilla at all costs plan.
He also seems to be the representatives of the humans.
Kind of, yeah.
Amongst the three humanoid entities that we have, three humanoid races, Haruho is kind of presented as the leader.
Well, you have to...
Even though he's not really the leader, there's the council,
but the council
is
the
interplanetary.
Spaceship. Yeah, you have the council on the Aerodrome in orbit.
Yeah.
But Haruo is the one leading the Earth team now.
Yeah, and nobody really cares about the council.
Leland, the guy who had the, what if we just set up a base on the moon and occasionally make trips to Earth on the opposite hemisphere of Godzilla? That guy, he's dead. He had to die immediately.
He had to die because the writers realized, actually, why aren't they doing that? Quick, kill him off and put the crazy-ass revenge-focused suicidal guy in charge. Like, Haru needs a lot of therapy, and he's going to take out the... I was going to say he's
that
probably...
makes for an interesting character.
I was going to say, no, it's an interesting character, absolutely. I want to dig into this guy. I sympathize with this guy. The movie's not really doing him a lot of justice, in my opinion.
Yeah. We have Metfies, the Exif priest. He's a manipulator. He's got religious ideas. He's like, oh, maybe Godzilla is a divine force sent down to take down civilizations when they get too uppity, and maybe I have my own ideas about that. But in the meantime, I could have been commander, but I don't want to be. I'm just going to be in the background, literally whispering in Haruo's ear.
Yeah, he's got a dynamic with Haruo.
He's got a dynamic.
I will Fujoshi.
Fujoshi, I think, is the term that you're going for.
I will Fujoshi for them.
I mean, you were also the one trying to ship the one-note characters in Godzilla Tokyo SOS. So.
I was trying to find a bit of depth, a bit of interest.
Trying to have some fun.
Yeah.
We have...
God forbid a girl have dreams.
No, I was laughing at these names. We have Galugu and Belube, the Belusaludos. There's no difference between them. They are interchangeable. It's just important that there's two of them.
Yeah.
There's Yuko Tani, who is girl.
Mm-hmm. And not his cousin.
Not his cousin. They had the same grandfather, but the grandfather adopted Haruo, so they're...
They really don't go into that.
They don't go into that. I've been watching, by the way, the Fallout TV show at the time of the recording this is coming out with episodes, and in season 2, they're really hampering on like the vault culture of so many people have like relatives who are products of incest.
Yeah.
I think that's very funny.
Because they have a limited population.
And it's funny that this movie doesn't go into that. They almost, but they don't. Anyway, so yeah, Yuko Tani, she's a girl. She pilots the space mecha suits, even though no one asks her about her jobs, and she's kind of offended by that. And that's her role. Leland's dead, and there is Professor Martin Lazari, who is just there to post hypotheticals.
Yeah, he's just there to post hypotheticals and do exposition dumps that my eyes glaze over when they happen. And again, I cannot stress enough, I'm a sci-fi girly, I read sci-fi books, and yet my brain cannot grab onto these exposition dumps. And I cannot give a shit about the technobabble that's going on in this. The exposition, I don't care.
Well,
it's boring.
hey, guys, but listen, podcast audience, we're going to be so excited
Yeah, we're
talking
so
about
excited.
this movie.
We're so excited. You should
here.
totally listen to this episode.
We're going to give you a show, folks. So let's get into it.
Okay, go.
So the crew of the Aerodrome, the spaceship in orbit, are debating leaving Earth because the fog around the Earth is doing electromagnetic interference. So there's a communication problem. They haven't heard from the Earth team in a while.
Yeah, they're totally dead.
Because last we saw them, Godzilla Earth showed up, the biggest Godzilla we've ever seen, and he just wrecked shop. And so they're like, it's been a while since we've heard from our humans.
They might have, and the humans and the aliens that went down.
Yeah.
The humanoids. We'll call them the humanoids.
The group, the survivors, the group, whatever. The party. So they are going to give the survivors 48 hours to send them a message before they're like, all right, screw Earth, we're going.
Yeah, I mean, the other issue, too, is like the electromagnetic clouds or fog or whatever does mess with communications.
Yeah.
So
they have to do the Son of Godzilla thing where they send a balloon up through the fog in order to get like any communications out.
Yeah, it is interesting. The debate stuff is interesting because we are now posing moral and philosophical questions that have stakes and consequences and matter.
Mm-hmm.
This movie will do that every now and then. It'll do what it clearly wants to do, and then it'll keep going. In a way, I'm like, I don't care about these. We're trying to cover. I feel like the movie's trying to really cover. It's biting off more than it can chew, I think.
Like they're trying to take a plot that was originally meant for 13 episodes and then putting them into 3 feature films.
Yeah. And yet...
Oh, actually, there is one little bit of historical context. So May 18th, 2018, about 6 months after the previous movie, this one releases in theaters in Japan. And then on July 18th, 2018, it releases worldwide on Netflix.
Okay.
So once again, we're not getting the American theatrical release.
Yeah.
We're getting the Netflix release with these movies. So that part of history.
That makes sense. I don't think these movies would have done well in the theaters.
Yeah.
In the US.
And then this is the state of streaming even before COVID.
Yeah.
So the crew of the Aerodrome is like, all right, 48 hours or we're leaving Earth. Mm-hmm. So ticking clock. All right, cool. Immediate establishment of stakes.
Great.
We cut over to Haru, who wakes up in a hut after he got messed up by Godzilla Earth in the previous movie. He is being tended to by a girl with dark skin, green eyes, and white moth wing bangs. Very cool design.
Yeah.
Like, even if you put her in the spacesuit that everyone else is wearing, she is still unique.
Yeah, she's really distinctive. I wish all of the characters had that good of a character design.
Yeah, and she's wearing, like, indigenous-looking clothes, and as Haru wakes up, she runs off. Haru chases after her through the forest, and then he reunites with a group of survivors, and then they're all captured by more of the indigenous Earth people. So then they are taken to an underground cave civilization. And we get some conversation of people being like, oh, wow, these people are super primitive. And Martin's like, no, actually, they're pretty advanced for what they're doing now. It looks like they have a culture. Look, they have like ropes binded in a way over this entrance that suggests like numbers or letters. And, they got all this other stuff going on. And meanwhile, the Belusaludos are like, this isn't evolution, it's de-evolution. Like, they're immediately racist.
Yeah, like, the aliens are really very immediately racist against these, quote-unquote, more primitive Earth people that have presumably been living on Earth the entire 20,000, or, like, they are, they think originally that these guys are the descendants of the humans who survived the Exodus and the apocalypse 20,000 years ago, or didn't go on the Exodus 20,000 years ago and are the post-apocalyptic humans that have adapted to this environment over the last 20,000 years.
Yeah.
This is kind of not the case, it turns out. / kind of is the case. Like, they're a little muddy on whether or not they're like humans combined with like kaiju DNA. They call it, like, there's this powder. They call them like bug people at one point. Yeah,
once again, it's another detail that this movie decides to display in a very muddied way. Same with is it 10,000 or 20,000 years of like Earth since we've been gone kind of thing. I just think it is notable that we have these human-like beings who are theorized to be part kaiju, who have their own methods of medicine, their
Mhm.
own language, their own culture.
They display altruism.
They have been surviving in an ecosystem that has been manipulated by Godzilla
Yeah.
and are apparently living in the same landmass as Godzilla Earth,
Yeah.
which, is pretty. But immediately the Belusaludo are like, nah, screw these people.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of, and again, like this movie could really be exploring themes of like colonialism, racism, except like we have these aliens that have come to Earth because they want Earth's resources and they are willing, it is implied that they are willing to take out the original inhabitants of the Earth, humans,
Mm-hmm.
in order to have control of this resource because they don't have their world anymore, which is them not having their own world anymore because of an apocalypse that happened is still a more generous
Mm-hmm.
sort of motivation for going to another world than, say, like the European settlers. It's not like Europe was ravaged and made uninhabitable. They just wanted, more resources. But yeah, they're just saying a lot. They're basically, there's a lot of debate amongst the three races that we have about whether or not the three spacefaring races we have, shall we say, about whether or not these people are people.
Mm-hmm.
Even though these people have very clearly displayed people traits such as cooperation, advanced tools, healing, altruism. What about them doesn't actually give people? Well, it's because you have a superiority complex.
Yes.
You are dehumanizing them. And that's a really interesting thing that's going on here. Not being expanded at all not being kind of expanded to Godzilla at all. Is Godzilla a person? Does it matter if Godzilla is a person, if it's this destructive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you raise an interesting point where it's like, is Godzilla an invasive species?
Yeah.
Because the ecosystem is warping around him and becoming hostile to the organisms that used to live on it.
Yeah. We also don't know where Godzilla came from.
Yeah.
Other than they say at one point, humanity changed Earth so much. The monsters are punishment, and now the Earth has chosen Godzilla as its true, as the inhabitant that it wants over humanity, who it felt. The idea is that the Earth had Godzilla destroy humans because the humans were destroying Earth through the climate crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Earth is changing to be better suited to Godzilla. How it's feeding Godzilla is never addressed, of course. And it seems that the humans, if these are the descendants of the humans, they are adapting in a way that, they're very, the way that they are being coded is very indigenous coded, and the way that the indigenous people are often coded to the Western civilization, which this is Japan. Well, Japan and the Ainu people, that's a whole thing, of course. But they're being presented as living with nature, and that's something that, the idea of more quote unquote technological societies subduing nature versus the indigenous tribes, they lived with nature and stuff. And there's a lot that we could go into and unpack there and whatnot, and we're not going to. But yeah,
if you want a franchise to unpack that, watch James Cameron's Avatar.
Oh Jesus! So it's really there's just more questions, themes, and concepts that are being presented in this movie now with the introduction of the what are they called again?
The Huthua.
The Huthua.
The Hotua.
Hotua. The introduction of the Hotua. And it's, again, whoa, we have way more now to deal with than we did before, and it doesn't feel like we're really dealing with or digging into anything properly.
Yeah, I will say we do go into what I believe is the most interesting scene in this movie.
Yeah.
Where they're led to a great temple with a large stone wall with runes carved into it and a simplified image of basically a hieroglyph of moth wings.
Yeah.
And
Mothra?
Exactly. It is these are the Infant Islanders.
Yeah.
The spiritual successor to the Infant Islanders. And the girl that was tending to Haru turns out she has a twin.
We're like, oh, the twin fairies. And so you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I see what this is. I see where we're going.
So we have Miana, who has a kind face, and we have Mena, who has an aggressive face. But otherwise, they look exactly alike.
Because they're twins.
Because they're twins. And they touch the stone wall, and it starts to glow, and they start speaking telepathically in everyone's mind.
Which is really funny that this happens after everybody else is saying that they're primitive and uncivilized and blah, 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 and they're a de-evolution, a regression, and then suddenly they're like, we have telepathy that also is a universal translator telepathy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, literally, the Balusaludo are saying, like, no, we're hearing this in our native language. We're not hearing this in Japanese or English, whichever one.
Yeah, they call it the human language.
The human language, yeah. Which is also funny because, like, a second before this happens, the Balusaludo are also like, yeah, we're probably about to get sacrificed or something like that.
It is kind of funny that the movie is presenting the Balusaludo as, like, you're not meant to agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
They are being presented as, like, hoity-toity and bigoted. And then the movie immediately, like, undercuts their assumptions because the movie doesn't want you to ultimately agree with the Balusaludo and what they're doing in this film.
Mm-hmm. And this is the Balusaludo
This is the Balusaludo film.
Yeah. So the Shrine Maidens are speaking telepathically to them. And the first thing is like, hey, passing crows, what they call the survivors who came in the landing ships and all that. Why did you blow up our forests? And they're like, oh, we
had to make a landing pad
to land. And it immediately strikes me like, oh, they're actually having like a coherent, reasonable conversation.
Yeah.
Like immediately as they say that, the Hutu are like, yeah, that makes sense actually.
It's also interesting too, because it does bring up the whole, like, there are consequences to your actions kind of a thing. Like, yeah, you did this because you needed to clear space to land, and you didn't know that there were people here. You didn't even think that maybe there could be other people here still.
Yeah.
You know, like the thoughtless, because Godzilla is ultimately a movie about sort of not thinking through the consequences of your actions and being thoughtless and careless with your science and whatnot. So to see that little echo happening here, that was satisfying.
Yeah. And they're having this whole conversation, and basically the Hotua are like, yeah, our god. They don't say Mothra.
Yeah.
But
they refuse to name Mothra.
Yeah. Their god tried to fight Godzilla and failed and turned into an egg, which we also don't see. We don't see the fight. We don't see the egg.
Yeah.
But they're like, here's the exposition, and now we live around Godzilla because we're like, yep, nope, no way to kill that thing. And the survivors are like, well, we still want to fight Godzilla. And the Shrine Maidens are like,
that's
really?
Stupid.
That's stupid. But like, if you want to do that, we're not going to stop you.
Again, it's very funny.
It's a very reasonable conversation.
Yes, and it's like, again, what does this movie want us to actually, like, we present the moon idea, and then now these guys who are successfully, like, they have a civilization. They are living successfully alongside Godzilla. They're like, I don't understand why you would want to try and attack Godzilla and kill Godzilla when you could just, be like, yeah, the Hatua, they can breathe the air above the surface. They have adapted to this. The rest of the aliens, the ones that have been in space, because I guess we can probably consider humans now aliens to Earth.
Yeah.
It's been 20,000 years since they've been there. They can only breathe underground. It's not really explained why the underground air is okay and the above ground air is bad.
I don't know, man.
But again, this movie has strange priorities with its world building.
So, yeah, so the group says, like, hey, we're still going to try to kill Godzilla. And the Hutu are like, all right, if you want to do that, go ahead. And then the twins are like, yeah, we're going to follow you. We're just going to see how this goes.
Yeah, somebody should keep an eye.
Yeah. And so they go outside, and then there's a fight with some Servum, which right before that, there's like a moment where like Haru is interacting with the twins, and Yuko has this like look on her face, and then she walks off by herself. Incredibly dumb move in Hell World.
She's so jealous.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's setting up like a jealousy moment. And it's like, hang on, what?
Because it's written by men who are very men-centric.
And she is girl assigned to man.
Yes.
And now there's other girl? Huh.
Other girl, she must be jealous.
I don't like her.
She must be jealous of other girls. They're getting on her man. I hate this.
There was one of the Family Guy Star Wars specials. They have a bit where it's like Lois is Princess Leia's in the meeting, and they have like the Chancellor woman there, and someone's like, "Wow, it's the only other woman in the galaxy," and Lois is like, "I hate her."
Yeah,
and that's the feeling.
It's so funny the way that men perceive jealousy between women, because I'm like, jealousy between women is far more complex and nuanced, I think, than a lot of men realize. And I'm not saying that men can't understand. I simply think that like the perspective, like they just don't have that. They don't know. They haven't grown up in that and have that lived experience. They only know what's presented to them in media, which is largely written by men. And men are like, oh, the women are only jealous over each other because of the men in their lives.
Mm-hmm. So Yuko goes off on her own because she has a little jealousy moment because girl. And then the Servum attack, which are the winged creatures with the weird black wrinkle skin that are a subspecies of Godzilla that we never name in the movies themselves. Mm-hmm. And then fight scene, real quick. Got to get through it because otherwise we'd have to animate it. And then I'm being so mean to this movie. I'm sorry.
No, you can be mean to it. It's okay.
But during the fight, Galugu, one of the Belusaludo, I love saying that, notices that the Hutua, they're using bows and arrows, and their arrowheads are made out of the same nanometal that they use to make Mechagodzilla. So it's like, oh, hey, light bulb. Maybe we still have a chance.
Yeah, because they're like, how the hell are these arrowheads puncturing all of our armor and like hurting the Servum, etc.? Oh, it's because they're nanometal.
Yeah, they show they just have like a hunk of nanometal, and then they just tap the arrowheads against it, and then suddenly it has like the nanometal around itself. And it's like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So the twins, they speak their own language, but they're slowly learning Japanese, I guess. So
they're slowly learning human.
They're slowly learning human, right? Because you're watching the dub and I'm watching the sub.
It just says human.
Yeah, just human. They're slowly learning human, and so they're like, oh yeah, we found it over there, and so they're like, okay, we have a plan. We're gonna find where this nanometal is, and maybe we can use it to kill Godzilla. But first, we kind of have to check in with everyone because now we have a huge group of survivors, and Haruo's like, hey, I'm still pro kill Godzilla. Anyone who doesn't want to kill Godzilla can go back up to the mothership. And all but 3 people are like, let's kill Godzilla. So there's 3 humans who get in contact with the Aerodrome, and they head back up to the mothership, and they tell the council in the spaceship.
Like, here's what you missed. There's people down there.
There's an even bigger Godzilla. They're still going to try to kill it. We think that's suicides. That's why we're up here. Just want to give you all information and data and all that. And then there's a very funny scene to me where the council is like, hey, so this Godzilla's a lot bigger than we thought. Can we run a quick calculation to see if Godzilla could, I don't know, fire us out of the sky with his atomic breath? And they literally calculate like, oh yeah, no, his atomic breath could reach us.
Yeah, they're like, we gotta back the fuck up. Which is a smart question to ask.
Very smart question.
Yeah, I'm like, oh good, somebody's got their brain working in here.
But that is one fun thing with, they have a Godzilla and they're like, oh, this is going to be the biggest Godzilla. This is going to be the god Godzilla.
Yeah,
Godzilla
does it
Earth.
mean... Wait,
so it's like the atomic breath can reach miles.
I can't remember. Is the ship visible on Earth from, like, it's in orbit? Is it visible?
I don't think they show it, but they imply, like, if Godzilla looked up and saw it.
Okay, they're close enough that they're in orbit. They're visible by the naked eye.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because the ISS is in orbit, but you can't see it during the day.
Yeah, that's fair.
Can Godzilla, like, and then something can be in orbit above Earth and close enough to be visible during the day.
To this movie's credit,
theoretically.
An oft-repeated line when they're going over hypotheticals is like, I don't know, Godzilla's different.
Yeah, which makes their whole hypothetical thing kind of feel like a waste of time when they constantly come to the conclusion of, well, I don't know. And I'm like, then why are we wasting time talking about this?
Counterpoint, there is a interplay between religion and science, especially between like the Exif and the Belusaludo.
Yeah.
So there, in these hypotheticals, there's a constant kind of butting of heads of like, all right, what's a logical explanation for this? And then Mephies comes in with like, well, maybe there's a religious explanation for this.
I mean, I guess I would be more into those conversations if they were conversations that were happening between our main characters.
Yeah.
Like, and it was showing our main characters' different viewpoints. And they were the ones that were having these discussions and coming into conflict with each other over these discussions, thus revealing further character. But instead, we're cutting away to people that are very far removed from the immediate danger.
Yeah, we're cutting to the council.
Yeah, who's unnamed, who we don't know, who are posing these, throwing around these concepts and ideas and having debate while everybody else is fighting for their fucking lives. You know?
I just thought about this, but I think one of the things that doesn't work well with this movie is the character of Martin. Once again, it's like, because here's the thing, I wasn't even going to mention him, but he's just slightly more important in movie 3. But like his role is guy who gets along with everyone, who poses the hypotheticals because he's the professor. And I think it would have been more interesting if they gave those hypothetical conversations to either or both Metfies and Galugu. So you have that like Haruo has these conversations with these characters who he will like come to odds with. And granted, he does have those conversations with Mephies in terms of religion and devotion and ambition. But
a lot of the conversations that are happening with the council members are meant to be stand-ins for what the ground crew's like motivations and thought processes are.
Yeah.
Of basically like, this is what the humans are all thinking. This is what the Exifs are all thinking. This is what the Bilisaludu are all thinking. But I would rather the characters that we're more closely following actually be the ones having these conversations instead of just cutting away to people that we don't really know having those conversations. Not to say that we can't be cutting away to the space station, characters there debating about what the fuck do we do? Do we help them? Do we go down? Do we run? Etc. Like, we can still do that. It would have been kind of cool if maybe there was a council member that was more of a main character who was more closely connected to somebody on the ground crew and cared about whether or not they lived or died and was torn between trying to help them versus trying to help everybody else and ensure the overall survival of the 3 races. But they don't do that.
No. So anyway, back to the ground crew. So the ground crew go through a cave system before they find a massive metallic city. The nanometal that was used to make Mechagodzilla was left inert and then expanded over the 20,000 years and created what they call Mechagodzilla City. So, very cool idea.
Yeah.
The twins call it Sinister and Poison. And they're like, hey, so we just wanted to show you where we get the nanometal, but we're not stepping foot in there.
Don't fucking go there. It's super dangerous.
If you guys go in there, we're not following. And
interesting to see how the technology that's left behind has carved out its own niche. Yeah. And is attempting to slowly conquer the planet, perhaps.
Yeah, it's
and is regarded as bad by the human people who are indigenous coded who are still there.
Yeah, this is where we are butting against the theme that is definitely going to be much more presented in the next movie of the indigenous people see expanding technology as an objective bad, except when they can use it for their arrowheads.
Well, I think I think that it's a little bit, it's not so cut and dry as technology equals bad. It's that this is an uncontrolled technology that's running rampant, that they do not have, it seems that they don't have the means to really understand or control it. And we see the human characters in this also having issues with the nanometal technology later on the line, and it being something that they considered to be very dangerous.
Yeah.
While the
you got it. I believe in you.
I need to, where did it go? I need to look at it.
Sound it out.
Belusaludu.
Nope.
Belusaludu. Salute. Belusaludo. Can you say it again?
Belusaludo.
Belusaludo. Okay, the Belusaludo have a very different perspective on this technology. They have a very different perspective on this technology.
I can't make fun of you for the amount of stuff I mispronounce on this podcast.
You're way worse than I am.
I wouldn't say worse, but...
I think you mispronounce things more often than I do, because I very carefully don't do it. I just don't say the word.
No.
I just...
You're not the one reading all the proper nouns.
I only say it. I only say it when I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp on it. I don't have to say it as often. Everybody has, like, a different perspective on this technology based off of where they're coming from, like, culturally. However, as dangerous as it is, they also recognize that it's really effective. And I think their perspective is not necessarily technology bad, but more of they are going to be much more restricted and intentional in how they are using this technology that they do not fully understand or are capable of controlling.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And also, Mechagodzilla City is creepy.
It is.
It is vast but empty. It is flat. They don't really do a lot of dust with it, so it looks also weirdly clean.
Mm-hmm.
There's also just corpses fused with nanometal.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I'll give this movie credit. One character is immediately like, "Hey, do we need to worry about that?"
Yeah.
And the Belusaludo are like, "No. They were dead.
Yeah, they were totally dead when the nanometal began to take over.
Don't worry about the poses that they're in.
It's not going to go after them if they're alive.
Yeah, so as long as we're alive, it won't try to fuse with you without your consent. What was that? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, while they're there, over time, people start talking about like, hey, some of the soldiers are starting to like get sick. Like, is it really okay for us to be here? And everyone's like, yeah, it's fine. So already we're getting this like weird sense. But also, the Belusaludo are very much like, hey, this is our best shot at killing Godzilla. Like, we just got an incredible weapon.
Which is interesting because Mechagodzilla didn't work the first time around.
Yeah.
And they don't really go into... It just seems like they got... I mean, I think maybe they just got attacked before they could really fully launch the program.
Yeah, that was kind of how it was presented in the flashback. Specifically, they're like, why isn't Mechagodzilla activating? We have to go. Godzilla's here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, the Mechagodzilla, something about the nanometal is active. It's still trying to achieve its objective, but it's just doing it in a spreading out and creating a city and creating new systems.
Yeah, it seems to be that the way that it is trying to fulfill its objective is to make the environment straight up hostile to Godzilla.
Yeah.
Freeze him out.
Yeah.
So to speak.
And so the Belusaludo are like, hey, there's no reason that our like previous access codes won't work. And sure enough, they get complete control of Mechagodzilla City. So it's like a city made out of nanometal. So they're immediately like, all right, let's create a command center. Cool. We can throw in some blueprints. We can start creating new weapons. We can start creating turrets. We can pretty much shape this entire landscape.
Yeah, this is the fortress from which we shall make launch our war against Godzilla.
Exactly. And they also create 3 new mech suits because they've got 3 of those like little walkers, like little avatar walkers left. So they're like, all right, let's upgrade them, make them more anime, give them laser wings. We're going to call them vultures.
They look cool.
They look cool.
They have like cool, like purple, pink flame, like jet flames and stuff.
Yeah. Like we go full like fly. And they're also like, while they're in the nanometal area, they can fly indefinitely.
Yeah,
so it's like
the nanometal generates technology, like generates power, apparently, whatever, sure.
Yeah, we've got upgraded mechs. We've got complete control of our environment. We have, and we're going to do the exact same plan to kill Godzilla. Literally, they're like, it worked the last time.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do the same thing, but bigger.
Yeah.
Woo!
I mean, yeah, I guess so. Like, there's a second Death Star.
Exactly. Exactly.
And now there's a third Death Star. Except this one could take out entire solar systems.
It's so funny to me because logically it makes sense, but it also makes the back end of this movie feel the exact same as the previous movie. Yeah. So there's that.
That's the issue, is they should have... Yes, they have the same plan because it worked last time. Now they've just scaled it up to bigger, but then it it shouldn't it should have been different. Now we should have been either not following that action necessarily because we know what's going on with it basically, and following something else and have the fight happen kind of in the background while we follow either a different fight or some sort of political intrigue, or because it's like we know how, with theoretically we know how that fight's gonna go, and then if it goes differently, then we check back into that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like we don't have to repeat this. We could have been doing something else.
Well, speaking of we could have been doing something else, I do actually have a little bit more historical context to bring up.
Oh.
So that interview I brought up in the previous episode with Gigazine, where when the third movie came out, they interviewed both directors and the writer.
Mm-hmm.
So director Sashida, the animation director, and the writer Urabuchi stated that they had an original idea for Mechagodzilla City to turn into a giant Mechagodzilla to fight Godzilla Earth. Sort of the logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Like the thing that like primally makes sense.
It's called Mechagodzilla. They built it to be a giant mech to fight Godzilla.
Yeah, if we have a giant Godzilla, it kind of makes sense to throw a giant Mechagodzilla at him. Or at the very least, they would have made the turrets look like Mechagodzilla's head.
Yeah.
But both Toho and they imply director Shizuno nixed that idea. Because they didn't want to do the pro wrestling thing. They wanted this to be different. So it's going to be a big nano city. We're going to do the same fight as the previous movie. We're not going to have a giant city-sized Mechagodzilla.
I mean, the issue is that I think the massive like city fortress made of the nanotechnology is really cool.
Yeah.
I think maybe but yes, not doing Mechagodzilla feels weird, and I wonder. It would have been cool if there was like an in-world reason why that wasn't going to work or why they couldn't do that versus the city.
Mm-hmm.
If perhaps, yes, they can like build a lot of things with the nanotechnology, they don't have time maybe to convert it to a Mechagodzilla before Godzilla is here.
Yeah.
Like they have enough time to retrofit the current Mechagodzilla city into a fortress and to do these smaller mechs. But if they try and do Mechagodzilla, it's going to take too much time, and it's going to get killed before it can fight Godzilla, just like it did 20,000 years ago.
Me personally, I just think it would have the giant Mechagodzilla idea would have been better. But the Toho
I'm
went
again.
against it. But yeah.
I don't
I get what
disagree
you're
with
saying,
you.
but they also could have done this better too.
Because they didn't want to do the other thing. They wanted to do this. And it's like, okay, we'll justify why we're doing this instead of the other thing then.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Mechagodzilla exists in if nothing else, in the pop culture osmosis of the audience, or the audience who have seen Mechagodzilla, and you name drop Mechagodzilla, and that was a plan. It was like, why aren't we doing it then?
Yeah.
Why aren't we at the moon doing supply runs to Earth? The moon is much safer.
Why are we calling it Planet of the Monsters and establishing that the planet was overrun by monsters, but we're not going to show the other monsters?
Can the atomic beam of Godzilla reach the moon?
Anyway, so Metfies, meanwhile, he's not in Mechagodzilla City. He's in a neighboring cave. He has some of his religious followers, because that's also another underlying thing, is that there's more members of his religion. He's making a point as things get more desperate, bringing more people into his religious fold. And he's set up in a nearby cave. They do have some technology in there from the nanometal, but otherwise, they're just like doing their own thing. And so Metfies talks to Haruo, and Metfies believes that Mechagodzilla City is a bad idea because he believes Godzilla is a divine force of destruction sent specifically because the civilization grew too arrogant, and he believes that's the exact same thing that happened with his civilization and the Blue Saludo civilization. And honestly, the fact that the same thing happened on different planets throughout the galaxy kind of lends credence a little bit.
I don't know that he's wrong.
There's something natural about that. So Metfies then entrusts Haruo with the name of the creature that destroyed his civilization, because he's all like, it's super powerful, it's sacred, we don't want to say its name too much. And then he leans in and whispers, and we, the audience, don't hear him say it. But come on.
Yeah.
We know what it is.
I mean, just say it then.
Well, here's the thing. I understand why they did this because they wanted to end on that scene. It's a little secret, but like anyone who's half paid attention to Godzilla, it's like, oh, did he say Mothra? Did he say Anguirus? So yeah. Later, also, Yuko and Haruo have a kiss scene. Like they have a basic.
It really comes out of nowhere in a lot of ways.
It comes out of nowhere. It's a very it's the same conversation they've had multiple times of Haruo reaffirming that he wants to take back Earth and humanity's dignity by killing Godzilla, and Yuko doesn't have really anything to add because she doesn't really have a character.
She doesn't have a perspective.
And then they kiss, and then the maiden twins are in the background watching this. And so it's like, hang on, is this supposed to be a jealousy scene, like, but from the other angle? Yeah, the priestesses. Is this supposed to be another jealousy scene? What's going on? They don't have none of these people have chemistry.
Yeah.
What? Anyway, it's so weird. But that's the thing. I harped on this in the previous episode. I'm going to harp on this a lot in this episode. But if a major theme you're hitting is, will you sacrifice your humanity to achieve your aims, to do the impossible, will you become a monster to fight a monster? You need to actually spend time on the human moments. Yeah. And it can't just be a kiss.
No.
Because there's nothing behind this.
That's what we call telling, not showing.
Exactly. So, I will say, we do spend some time on internal conflict.
Yay.
This is an interesting scene right here.
Again, finally, something interesting is actually happening.
Right, yeah. It's weird. It's weird how boring this movie feels for most of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but this is interesting. So some of the Belusaludo are allowing themselves to be assimilated by the nanometal so that their neurons can be used to power the city's computers. And there is a confrontation in the command center where Galugu and Belube, the two Belusaludos, they believe that this is an evolution. You ascend from being organic. You're being a pure logic. This is pure utility, making Mechagodzilla City more efficient. The humans are understandably freaked out about this, especially because no one mentioned this.
Yeah, they're like, what?
They just started doing this.
Yeah, they've been keeping this quiet that this is something that happens or could happen or that they've done before for the last 20 years. Yeah. That this was what was going to happen with the Mechagodzilla 20,000 years ago.
And yeah, and it looks like this is a confrontation that's about to go to blows. And then Yuko shows up and she's like, hey, the only people getting assimilated are Belusaludo volunteers. So can we kind of move forward with that?
Which is a pretty reasonable assertion from Yuko.
Yeah.
Of like, listen, they're not saying that any of us have to do it. We don't want to do it. It's just these guys. This is their culture. This is their perspective.
And it's fascinating because it's like, all right, where was this Yuko?
I know. Yeah, this was the most interesting thing that she's done.
Yeah. So, we've certainly had events where it's like characters were having philosophical conversations with each other and even arguments. And it's like, could we have Yuko have been in any of those scenes to establish this? Because this is interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So there's a new plan.
New plan.
It's the same as the old plan.
Same as the old plan. They're going to make a little nanometal trench. They're going to bring Godzilla into there. They're going to use the nanometal to trap him in there, kind of freeze his feet. They're going to bomb the hell out of him with all the Mechagodzilla City turrets. And then they're going to fire giant EMP harpoons into his back when his organic electromagnetic pulse shield is disrupted. And then they're going to blow him up. Just like they did with Manila. And Haruo, Belube, and Yuko are going to fly around in the vulture mechas to distract Godzilla all in the meantime.
I guess the funny thing about this is that they don't have to lure Godzilla to Mechagodzilla City. They just know that he will come.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing is Godzilla Earth just wakes up and starts making his way to Mechagodzilla City.
For no reason that we can perceive.
Yeah.
Other than that's what needs to happen for the plot, and they don't care about having to lure him there or anything.
Yeah.
Has he gone to Mechagodzilla City before? And what happened when he did? If the nanotechnology has the goal of destroying Godzilla, but Godzilla has gone there before and does not fear going there again. So then how do we know that this is even going to work?
Yeah.
If theoretically Godzilla's been there before and hasn't been harmed or killed.
Or even if he hasn't gone there, okay, so he's left this place alone for 20,000 years.
And all of a sudden he's going to go there because our characters are there.
Yeah, like they don't even like explode anything or make a lot of noise or send out flares or anything. He just kind of naturally senses like, oh, the plot's about to happen.
I got to go get to my get to places, people, places.
Exactly. Like Godzilla Earth just has an innate sense of like, oh, plot's about to happen. Oh, people are getting up to mischief. A new challenger appears.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, I guess it lends credence to that he's a god of destruction that must lay waste to those who are hubristic. And now he knows that the sentient flesh bags are trying to kill him and retake Earth. And he's like, well, I'm going to go meet them where they are. What if he didn't? What if he just avoided them? What would they do? Would they have to go march out? Because then they'd have to go march out and meet him. But how can they move the city?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay. This is the biggest plot hole in the entire like this is actually, now that I think about it, I'm like, this is truly worse than anything else that's happened in this movie. Is the Godzilla's just gonna go to Mechagodzilla City because the plot needs him to.
Yeah, in a movie that wants to make you think about scientific world building and philosophical conversations, and once again, it's just like, hey, we're skipping over this? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's the thing. Okay, when we talk about, and again, this is a sci-fi movie that's trying to go pretty hard sci-fi. Like, it's still really fantastical, but it's trying to be it's presenting itself as like fairly scientific. You know, like there's a lot of rules to the world building, allegedly, you know. It's not like it's, you know, there's softer sci-fi.
Yeah, we're not doing a Doctor Who, Star Trek reversing the polarity flow.
Yes. That's a much softer sci-fi than this. This is presenting itself as a harder sci-fi, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I wouldn't say full hard sci-fi because then you get into like real like hard mechanics. Like we still have faster than light travel.
I mean, we
still have hover bikes.
Sure. It's a
laser winged mechas.
Yeah, it's a spectrum, but this is trying to go more hard sci-fi than soft sci-fi, I would think. Or I think. And one of the things with hard sci-fi, with this sort of plot hole, in my opinion, because this is, again, Godzilla's behavior is something that is important in thinking about as an animal. There is The Martian. Great movie, great book, right? Technically, Mars does not have an atmosphere that would support a dust storm severe enough to be the dust storm that kicks off the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a really bad storm that they have to abort over. Mars can't do that with its atmosphere. It just can't. That's completely unscientific. It's the biggest scientific inaccuracy in the entire book/movie. But without it, you wouldn't have the whole story. So everybody is just willing to go, I'll give it to you. Like, you get this because so much of the rest of it is really, like, spot on and accurate. And also, again, it's the jump we have to make to have the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, it's fine. It's worth it.
Yeah, and we do get the scene of Godzilla Earth firing his atomic breath, like, over multiple miles at Mechagodzilla City.
Yeah.
And then Mechagodzilla City activates, like, a force field. It's cool. It's very cool.
But my point is, Godzilla just deciding to go march to Mechagodzilla City does not get that grace for me.
Yeah.
that I give The Martian. Because it doesn't. This movie is not justifying itself the way that The Martian justifies itself with that plot point, and because there's so much going on here. It's like, why aren't they just going to the moon? Like,
because I think part of it is like when you have a planning an ambush scene, one of the most important elements is how do we shape the motivation of the thing we're trying to ambush.
Yeah.
And when
either you're trying to ambush it because you know it's gonna be there, or you know you can lure it there.
Yeah. Well, Godzilla Earth shoots at Mechagodzilla City. That doesn't work. So he's like, all right, I'm just going to march over there and destroy it up close. So he starts marching. The plan commences. They make their nanometal trench. They trap Godzilla Earth in the nanometal trench. They fire all the artillery. Haru, Yuko, and Bellobe fly around the vulture mechas. All this different sci-fi stuff. Explosions. We repeat the same clips each 3 times.
Yep.
Just got to
pad the runtime.
Pad the runtime. And then it's like, all right, we did it. We fired the EMP harpoon. We did the exact same thing as the last movie. Yay, it's going to work. And then Godzilla Earth crouches and begins to glow red, developing a superheated dome around himself. The temperature of the entire Mechagodzilla city rises. And honestly, I'm like, yeah, Godzilla will always pull something out of his ass around these
Well,
times.
sure,
This is right on with this franchise. Of course, Godzilla's going to do something like this. If it wasn't this, it would have been magnet powers.
Yeah. He's just gonna melt everything, I guess.
So, last ditch effort. If the vultures can fly right into Godzilla as makeshift spears, they might be able to take him out. But to do that, the pilots will need to be assimilated into the nanometal to last like the 10 seconds they would need to make this work. Because otherwise they would just burn up immediately
die
in their organic bodies. So Galugu and Belube, the Belusaludos, they assimilate willingly. Galugu's in the command center, Belube's in the mech. And Yuko begins to assimilate unwillingly. And so,
Which proves that the machine does not need your consent.
nope. Big decision moment. Everyone's screaming in Haruo's ear. Does Haruo sacrifice his humanity and Yuko, the girl he had one kiss with?
Who we know that he cares about because the movie has told us, but not shown us that he cares about her.
Didn't even know that she was part of the space mecha team. Sorry, I love that scene in the previous movie so much. What are you doing here, Yuko? I pilot the mechas. That's my job. You never ask me about me.
You just hog my grandpa.
This decision scene is also just a little bit undercut because Haruo finds out that he's also immune to the nanometal.
Yeah.
So it's just like, huh? But anyway,
he should have been like gung ho about it from the beginning. Here's the thing. He's so into killing Godzilla. Like, what if he was gung ho? He's like, I don't care. I'm going to do this. I'm going to assimilate for like whatever it takes, blah, blah, blah. Like, is that going to help? Then I'll do it. Yeah. And then if he couldn't assimilate it because it's what Medi did to him, right?
It's weird. He's the opposing voice in that confrontation scene earlier. He's the one that's like, hey, this nanometal assimilation thing is weird. And it's like, no, you're the character who has the spearheaded devotion toward killing Godzilla.
Like, you can say that it's weird, but also it's a price. Like, you can say that this is a price too high, but it is a price you are willing to pay.
Yeah.
Like, you can you can hold that in your hand, like both of those. But for you to be like, actually, never mind, not at all cost, not this cost, and then like still go forward with this plan. It's like, no, I think actually he should have been completely gung-ho about it and then be faced with, actually, you can't assimilate, but Yuko can. And now you are no longer, because, you know, his whole thing is, like, he'll do whatever it takes, and he's kind of dragging everybody with him, and he even has a conversation with some of the other characters, like, do you think this is okay? Because he's realizing that his single-minded quest for revenge could get everybody else killed, too, not just him.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of already made this play at the beginning, by holding everybody hostage, you know, with the shuttle at the very beginning to save, you know, the old people. And the old people were like, no, let us make this decision. We've made this decision, you know. And so now here he is questioning, like, you know, last time I held everybody hostage, but everybody had the decision, like, that's not what they wanted. I let them make their decisions instead of holding everybody hostage and fucking us all up. And now, in my single-minded devotion to kill Godzilla, I'm dragging all of these people in with me. And they have chosen to be here, technically, but they have put their trust in me to do this. And is this the correct decision? And blah, blah, blah. And he's having all of this doubt now. And then the nanotech thing happens, and he's like... And Yuko assures him. She's like, no, let's do this. Like, he's like, okay, yeah. And then he thinks the nanotech thing is weird. And then it turns out, before he can even make a decision to assimilate it or not, he's immune. It should have been that he's fine with it. He's gung-ho, except like whatever. He doesn't care. And then they're like, you have to assimilate. And he's like, all right, fine. And he can't assimilate now. And now it's like, do you sacrifice Yuko?
Yeah.
Versus yourself. Like, you can't sacrifice yourself.
Because this is like the one shot.
Yeah, and really make him, because again, now it's like he didn't have to make that decision actually with the shuttle.
Yeah.
He got to talk big, but he didn't have to pull the trigger with the shuttle and kill 4,000 people, you know, for his principles. But now is he gonna... is he going to sacrifice Yuko, who he's supposed to care about? Like,
Yeah, and I will say that, the lead up to this makes sense. The presentation is, of course, because they're repeating every scene 3 times.
Yeah.
It's like drawn out way too long. I think about Shin Godzilla,
mm-hmm.
and apologies, but I cannot remember any of the characters' names right now off the top of my head. But like, it makes sure to have scenes. Shin Godzilla is a movie where it's like the whole point is that it's rapid cuts between all of this bureaucracy, all of these different characters that are literally just supposed to be positions in a grander government.
Yeah.
And yet it still finds a way to have those moments where it's like you have the main guy who's super dedicated to taking down Godzilla, but he's like asleep at his desk and someone gives him some clean clothes and a meal. And it's like, hey, we understand you're doing this, but like, here's a human interaction.
Yes.
Or it's like he has actual quippy dialogue with the American
they
envoy.
are presented as people.
They're people.
It's like there are people in these positions of power. They are not faceless.
Yes.
It is still, like we talk about systems being responsible. It's still people that make up the system.
And like in a third of the time, Shin Godzilla presents more human characterization than this anime trilogy.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important to have those little moments, even in a fast-paced movie about like all of these different things and about facing a greater threat. Because when it comes down to the moment of when your humanity is on the line, did you present that humanity?
Yeah.
And just having a kiss doesn't cut it.
No.
Anyway.
Any good love story, I don't know if I've said it before on this podcast, but it is my belief that if you have to have the characters kiss for the audience to understand that they're in love, then you have failed.
Mm-hmm.
The audience should know without them having to kiss that they're in love. It doesn't mean that they can't kiss or you don't show the kiss or whatever. But if you have to do the kiss for the audience to get like that they're in love or to believe that they're in love or whatever, no, they should be screaming at the screen, just kiss already.
Yeah.
Because they know that's what they want.
So Haruo chooses at the last moment to destroy Mechagodzilla City's command center, killing Galugu, attempting to stop Yuko's assimilation. Belube also dies immediately. And so with that, Godzilla's superheated dome collapses. He's now in his like burning Godzilla form, which is another mainstay of the franchise. It looks sick. When they focus on the Godzilla animation, it looks sick.
Yeah.
The humans look like dolls.
Everybody else sucks, but the Godzilla works.
And to be fair, they made the Godzilla design look almost metallic, so that makes him like his inhumanity, his like inorganic feel makes sense. Anyway, and then the burning kaiju destroys the entirety of Mechagodzilla City with his atomic breath, destroying humanity's last hope of destroying Godzilla. Haruo lands his and Yuko's vultures. He holds Yuko's body in his arms. Yuko looks dead, and Haruo screams in anguish at his sacrifice that was for naught. And then we end on a flashback. Metfies leans into Haruo's ear and whispers the name of the kaiju that destroyed his own planet. Ghidorah. End of movie.
I don't really understand why we went back to the flashback where we found out his name was Ghidorah.
Well, that it's to show, okay, the final movie's King Ghidorah is going to appear.
I know, but that doesn't serve this movie.
Well, it's like, all right, we've just destroyed what was more than likely the last technological hope of defeating Godzilla. And so it's like, all right, we need to end on something like what would be the only other thing that could defeat Godzilla at this point? And it's Godzilla's other arch nemesis,
who hasn't even shown up yet, though.
Yeah.
So we're just now learning.
We haven't got any foreshadowing besides this conversation.
Yeah, I don't think it works. I think I would have done Haru screams in anguish, and then another, as he is screaming, there's a louder, more inhuman scream that overlaps his scream. Wait, that's not him anymore. He looks up, and here comes Ghidorah descending from the earth. Well, then we do the flashback of like Ghidorah.
Well, they can't do that because the way Ghidorah appears in the next movie.
Well, I don't know how he appears in the next movie. I haven't actually seen it yet.
You only watched the first
I'm just saying why I think that's how they should have done the reveal in this one, other than this like flashback thing, because this flashback, it's just that they want it doesn't. I don't think it works. I don't think it's earned. Like, why is he thinking about this now?
I
A
don't even.
flashback is from somebody's perspective.
Well, I think it's just the movie doing the flashback.
Well,
it's like, hey, remember
that's
that
why
thing
it
that
doesn't work.
we withheld from you? Yeah.
That's why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because whose perspective are we in? Nobody's.
Yeah.
The movie, even though it's not like a first-person narrated book, a movie is still always in somebody's perspective. And it could be in multiple people's perspective. We're jumping around and we're seeing the events of the movie through multiple people's heads, maybe. But we're with Haru, who is cradling Yuko's body. He feels guilty for her death. He's screaming in anguish, and he's flashing back to Metphys telling him about Ghidorah. Why?
Well, it couldn't be Metphys flashing back, because if we cut over to Metphys looking over Godzilla and being like, my Lord Destruction, would have been the exact same as the previous movie.
Yeah, like it doesn't, like, that's why I say when I say the flashback's not earned. Like, I don't know where the only reason that it's there is for the movie to tease what happens next for us. That's not a good reason for the flashback.
So yeah, here we are at the end of Godzilla City on the Edge of Battle.
It also sucks.
We've got one more movie to wrap up the anime trilogy. How are our survivors going to take on Godzilla next?
They're not. King Ghidorah is.
Okay, King Ghidorah is somehow gonna be involved. The logic-based technological race are, at least their mainstays in the ground crew,
Yeah, they're
are out
gone.
of commission. We still have the Belusaludos up in the Aerodrome.
Yeah.
But otherwise, their main focus on the ground crew is gone.
And they're all out of tech.
So
allegedly.
It's like, yeah. So now it's like, all right, we're in even more desperate situation than the previous movie. Metphys is figuring something out. He's got his religious people in a cave right next to Mechagodzilla City.
And we have the Infant Islanders. Sorry, the Hatua.
The Hotua.
Say it again.
Hotua.
Hotua.
Yeah, and they worship a off-screen Mothra.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Once again, this movie felt confused and flat.
It had the opportunity to have a giant Mechagodzilla and chose not to do that. Instead, they chose the exact same plan as the previous movie, following the same beats.
And it didn't work this time.
Except for the ending where Haru has to make a decision, but also he's kind of exempt from the decision because he's immune, because he's special.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually have to do anything. He gets his autonomy taken away from him. In a way that is not as interesting as him making the decision and then not being able, being able to make the decision and then actually no, you can't, choosing a decision that is then taken from you for some mysterious why can't the nanotech assimilate with him? What happened? Mm-hmm. Is this something that was done to him? Do we know? I mean, I think I have my theories, but I don't think the movie actually tells us why it doesn't work, right?
Not yet, no.
Yeah, not yet. So that's a question going into the next movie.
The big thing here is that, at least from Metvy's perspective, Mechagodzilla City and its battle against Godzilla is a microcosm of Godzilla's conflict with civilization that believes that it can control nature. So with the microcosm of civilization's failure to destroy Godzilla once more, it sets up the third movie as the answer to that conundrum, or at the very least, an expansion on those themes. And once we get there, I think that'll be interesting to talk about where the movie goes with that. But for right now, once again, we're in the serial nature. The themes that are brought up aren't exactly answered in the arc of this movie, so we need to go into the third one to see if they do. Speaking of, I forgot to put the title in the notes.
I just looked it up.
Cool. So speaking of, Kayla, what is the next movie we're talking about?
Next, we'll be watching Godzilla, the planet. I almost said plant. Sorry. Next, we'll be watching Godzilla.
Wait, I was laughing over that.
I know. I was like, Biolante?
God, I wish. Next,
we'll be watching Godzilla, the Planet Eater. Be sure to watch the sub or the dub. It doesn't matter this time. Go with God. If you liked this podcast, be sure to subscribe, give us a rating, leave a comment, and share with a friend. Follow us on social media. We got the links in the show notes. We also have a Ko-fi. You can support us there and get access to cool bonus content like extra episodes and access to the private Discord where you can talk with other geeks about Godzilla and all things Digital Kaiju. Check it out. Gorilla Whale is a production of Digital Kaiju Studios. It is hosted and produced by Kevin Carpenter and Kayla Knutson. Gorilla Whale has no official affiliation with Toho, Legendary, or any other companies associated with the Godzilla franchise. We thank you for watching along with us. Until next time, watch out for kaiju.
Watch out for kaiju.